classroom here at I-20 Wildlife Preserve. Because we're in a non-traditional setting, I don't have a classroom. What I do is I develop the materials so that I can bring them out here for the children to explore. I meet with the littlest children. My class is called Starting Out Wild, and the children in my group range from 1.5 years old to 3 years old, so much younger than what this book suggests that the material should be for. But the purpose of me showing you what I do is to show how the program can easily be adapted to any age. So in this lesson, Who Lives in a Tree?, it says that children develop an awareness of trees and some of the animals that call them home. So the two main components of this lesson to me is basically, what is a tree? We talk about the functions of a tree. So I might start the lesson by having the children identify trees that are around us, and then we might even see if we can find 3 different trees and talk about how we know that 2 trees are not the same but different species. So I have made here a large interactive tree. You could draw a tree easily on a chalkboard. You could have the children draw trees and then walk through the steps of labeling up with them. There are many ways, I think, to make an interactive tree. I painted this one on a chalkboard. This is an old chalkboard that I guess I was going to use for my children in homeschool and never got around to doing it. So I like that because it's very sturdy and you could even write on it. So one of the first parts of this lesson is identifying parts of a tree. So I've created a page in my book for parts of a tree. So you might go through it, and so you would do like leaves and then talk about the function of a leaves, and the children can put the sign onto the leaves. Again, we have branch, you talk about what they're used for, and you could label them on the tree. This one says bark, trunk, and roots. In the book, there's also some finger plays that you can adapt using these same things, where the children will give you feedback on maybe hand signals or sounds that they can use as you go through the parts of a tree. So that's kind of the first component of it, and so I've made a lot of just different materials that I can have available out here with me while I do it. The second part of this lesson that I really go into is the part of who lives in a tree. So what kind of wildlife do we have all around us that might call the tree their home? You might want to get the kids to give you animals that they think that live in a tree, and then you would be able to allow the children, hopefully everyone can participate in placing those animals where they think they might live. Again, we want to know, as you look at this lesson and really turn through the pages and zoom into all the activities, how do you think you could use this lesson at your school? What are some maybe topics that you cover throughout the year that this material could be easily adapted to? I think that Who Lives in a Tree is designed to promote critical thinking about wildlife habitats. And that's an important topic that's reinforced throughout every lesson of this curriculum, is really that wild animals need to take care of themselves, and we as humans need to be stewards to the wild and respectful of their environment. Okay, so Ants on Parade is the next lesson we're going to look at, and this is a lesson where children will go outside to observe ant behavior and learn insect characteristics. This is a great lesson because usually when I begin the lesson, after I let everybody have a little ant to hold in their hands and to explore and to play with, and then I'll gather some information from the children based on how they feel about ants, maybe some prior knowledge. Very little of them can, tell me that they have 6 legs, 2 antennas, 3 body parts, but we hope that that's where we get to towards the end of the lesson. I usually get feedback that ants are bad, that they're pests, that nobody likes them, that they bite, things like that. But those are all great feedback from children, and we hope to not encourage them to love ants, but maybe just understand them a little bit better. So through looking at model ants, through exploring things that I have made that the kids can manipulate, through some of the songs that we sing, we do hope that the children get a better understanding of ant anatomy and some of the roles that they play in society. We talk about ants as important for cleaning up our world, that they're kind of part of the cleanup crew, gathering unwanted material and waste from all over and eating it and recycling it. So we are very grateful for ants. A few of the little resources that I have around here to kind of really push the children into their own learning would include things like a counting mat, where you can write a number in the corner and then have the children count, place the ants on here as they count, so you get the one-to-one counting correlation. I'm sure you could do 10 frames with this, or even counting real ants by groups of 10 or things like that. So I feel like there's a lot of math components that can be used as you go and look for ants. I have some letter recognizations where the children can maybe practice writing if they're at that skill set, where they can trace out words like ants have 3 body parts, ants are insects. I also have some sorting activities where I have little cards that the children can sort into categories. So this is a good higher level thinking. So we have insects and not insects, and I think that that's a skill that with a little bit of guidance even the youngest children can do. I have things like finding the letter A. A is for ant. Finding the letter A's in a picture. So you have letter recognition. And then another great activity that's in this book is this comparing ants. And this is a resource that's in the back of your Growing Up Wild handbook. And it takes a picture of a cartoon ant and a real ant and allows the children to make verbal comparisons on how sometimes ants can be portrayed in books and movies and things versus real life exploration. So I think that that's a good skill. I also take this time to read many books on ants and, just reinforce the idea that ants are important and valuable in our world. Let's see. Here's a great series of books that I like to read. I try to read them throughout the season so that the kids are familiar with them. For example, Are You a Bee? And these are all backyard books, and then you can find them at most bookstores. Are You a Ladybug? Are You an Ant? Are You a Spider? So if you had older children, this would be a good opportunity maybe to compare spiders and ants as arachnids and insects. So, literature components can be a big part of any lesson, all the lessons. Where I found a mound of bully ants, and I set my paper plate down here to see what they like. Hopefully you would have had predictions from your children on what their thoughts would be. If we look a little closer, I'll show you a picture as a close-up, but we can see that the ants, these particular ants, really prefer the meat. I could try to pick it up. I don't really want to get bit. Speaking of getting bit, this might be a great opportunity to make sure that none of your kids have allergies, and to talk a little bit about ant safety and always watching your feet. If we had more time, or if you were with a group of children for an extended period of time, like I mentioned earlier, you might try this activity in several parts of your schoolyard and see if you can find different results. Enjoyed this module and kind of taking a deeper look at some of the ways that I use the lessons. We really look forward to, again, hearing some ways that you might use this. So we'll see you in Module 3. Thanks for joining me.